So thank you everyone for joining us today. What's called the Radon Report, with this month being Radon Awareness Month, which Integrity Inspection Group has let me know because I didn't know that before. It's perfect and fitting that we discuss everything radon, what's important to know about it, what it is for people who don't know, and how to mitigate it or get rid of it. And so to help me with this report, I have Patrick Nolan here with me with Integrity Inspection Group. He's a certified home inspector with over a decade of experience. He's the co-owner of Integrity Inspection Group. He's a respected member of Internachi, which is known for their thorough inspections and has inspected about 2,500 homes in the metro area. Integrity Inspection Group is also one of my recommended inspectors as well, in case you need one. So thank you, Pat, for being here. Greatly appreciate it.
Happy to be here, Patrice. Thanks for getting me on.
Yeah, you're welcome. So of course, the first question, people don't know, what is radon exactly?
Um, yeah, so radon, it's a natural occurring gas. It kind of originates from like the natural decay cycle of, or the decay chain, I guess is the correct term, of uranium. So when the glaciers came through thousands of years ago, they left deposits of uranium in the soil, and as the uranium breaks down, um, turns into several different elements, and one of those is radon. So it's a gas that finds its way into the house through stack effect. And then once it gets into the house, the gas actually goes through a decay cycle itself and turns back into a solid, which is polonium.
Mm,
And that is what is really harmful to you, to the person, potentially, anyways.
okay. Um, and so, I mean, what are the negative effects of radon? Like, what can happen if you have very high levels of radon?
Yeah, so the biggest one is lung cancer. So it is the second leading cause of lung cancer, other than smoking, cigarettes, tobacco, things like that. Um, so yeah, number one leading cause of lung cancer to people who do not smoke.
So with that, would you say it can be almost, I mean, if at a certain level, it can be almost bad as smoking, essentially? Having,
Yes, yeah. If you're prolonged to it, for an extended period of time, long enough, then yeah, it could have those effects. And people who smoke, it can affect them even more adversely.
okay.
Yeah. And
Um,
there's also studies out there. So as time went on, then they've kind of delved into it a bit more. There's actually studies out there that say it can lead to like neurodegenerative diseases too, like Alzheimer's and MS. With people, with older adults. That's kind of a new finding, but there's some articles out there, that state that.
hmm, okay. Um, And you kind of already, we just talked about this a little bit, but if there's anything you want to add to this, like if what would you say, you'll have like a little bit, like with the radon results being a little bit on the higher side, but not um just over, right, the minimum compared to if we have super high levels. Is there a vast difference, or just being a little bit over is a major impact?
Yeah, so the government will say there is no safe amount of radon in the house. However, you know, those type of health issues would develop over long periods of time, and depending on the amount that you're exposed to, duration of time, that you're in that concentration, um, would kind of, dictate how severe or how quick things could potentially, go south with your health.
Okay. So what's involved with the testing of radon to determine if it needs to be mitigated or not, and which type of tests are best to use?
Um, well, there's several different types of tests. There's long-term tests and short-term tests. Generally for real estate transactions, you'll do a short-term test. Um, and the standard is at least 44 hours for a test to be um, you know, legitimate, I guess. And it's always done in the lowest livable area of the house, whether it's the basement or your lower level, or if you're on a slab or over a crawl space, just somewhere on the main floor. And there's some other standards there also. Um, so yeah, it's generally a 2-day test. It can go longer, um, but not shorter.
Okay. Um, and so I've just seen like some inspectors use different kinds of in the past. I don't know if it's changed, right? So like there's the
Yeah.
one where the box may give a range or
hmm
like it'll show different time differences. Is there like one that's better than the other, or are they still both
Yeah,
basic?
there's absorption devices. There's little canisters that you could get from the hardware store. Sometime the municipalities will give them to you to test your house. You could order them over the internet, of course. Um, I think what you're referring to is a continuous radon monitor, so a CRM, and that's typically what we would use, what we do use for the vast majority of our tests. So it's a monitor that again runs the test, lowest livable area, and ours in specific takes 23 measurements an hour, and it breaks it down into hourly averages, not only on radon but also relative humidity, barometric pressure, and temperature, all variables that it can affect radon levels. Um, then we hook it up to our software, and it produces a nice report and gives you, graphs and then a spreadsheet with all the different numbers on there. Um, Actually, I could share. Can you share my screen, Patrice?
Yeah. Okay, it
I
looks like
can.
we did it now.
So,
Yeah, just go to the bottom, click on the share in the middle.
oh, yeah. Okay. Share screen. Okay. Got me?
Yep.
So this is a test that I ran on my house. So I test my house every couple of years.
Hmm.
Um, and I did this just last week. So this is kind of what you would get from us um, after the test was done. And the good thing about our box is it's like a certified lab in itself. So you get the results instantly. With the absorption kits, the devices that we were talking about, um, they would have to, of course, you have to run the test, and then they'd be sent off to a lab, and then you'd have to wait, several days for the results, the report to come back from the laboratory. So these are good because we show up to the job, um, and we can get them results instantly, and get the report out ASAP. So um, this graph here, actually, is this my? Let me get out of this real quick. Actually, this is the formal report here. Um, so formal with a bunch of verbiage at the beginning of it. But what I like about this software is it gives you these graphs too. So the first section is radon, and you can see how it fluctuates. So it's pretty common, really common, for the numbers to kind of bounce up and down a little bit. And a lot of that is caused by atmospheric conditions on the outside. You get different pressurized systems that move in and out, can increase or decrease ground pressure on the outside, increase, decrease stack effect. Also seasonal, conditions that it can affect the numbers too. Um, so it goes through these graphs, and then it gives you a big spreadsheet down at the bottom, with the different columns on radon, temperature, barometric pressure, humidity, and it breaks it all down into hourly averages. So that's the way we like to test. We generally wouldn't use the absorption devices unless we were doing like bulk testing for like an apartment complex or
Mm.
something like that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, um, I can stop the share and we'll get back to it.
Yeah, I was gonna try to do it myself and I realized I
Yeah,
was
go ahead.
um yeah, so inspectors usually advise that all windows are closed during testing.
Yeah.
Is that just to make sure that nothing outside impacts the test, or what's important about that?
Yeah. So the standard is, I believe it's 12 hours before the test is started, and for the duration of the test, the windows should be closed. And that's to kind of, they call it closed house conditions, but you're kind of creating the worst case scenario for radon. Um, and there's other variables too, where uh, a lot of the heating systems in our part of the country are forced air furnaces. And they have the fans on them, and you can either have the fan in the continuously running mode or the auto mode, where it just comes on when the furnace or the air conditioner comes on. Um, so during the test, the fan on the furnace should be in the auto mode, not continuously running, and you should minimize the use of like any exhaust fans, like if you have a hood vent in your kitchen or exhaust fans in your bathrooms, things like that. So you're trying to close the house up. So you're creating, yeah, essentially the worst case scenario for radon to get in there so you can get an accurate test. You open the windows and it's fairly, um, I guess, somewhat easy to detect when we look at the numbers and find out somebody's opened the windows because usually the numbers will, on that graph we are just looking at, it might be like this, and then the window's open and it just falls off the table. Then they'll close them and you'll see the numbers start to climb up again. So yeah, opening your windows, that's going to let the radon out.
I was gonna say, is it just in general good practice? Like, let's say, you're not in position to test your house for radon, you don't get a mitigation system to just
Hmm.
open windows often, and that
Yeah,
can do a lot for you.
yeah, but it's that's not optimal this time of year
Yeah.
in Michigan. But yeah, you could trying to minimize the radon in the house. Yeah, you could keep them fans running. Have your furnace running in the continuous mode, the furnace fan, anyways. Um, a lot of the newer base or bathroom fans, you can have timers on them and, get those to intermittently come on. So, yeah, there's definitely ways to kind of reduce the levels that you get in the house.
Yeah, I think we talk more about that later anyway.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So how much does the average radon test cost? I think you talked about how long it takes, but how much would it
Yeah.
typically?
Um, so we have a base price for the test, and then you'll get a little charge on there depending on where we're traveling. So we're out Ann Arbor, and if we get a certain mileage away, then we'll tack on a little charge. But I would say anywhere from 140 to $180 somewhere in there.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's not bad at all. Compared to some other rates. So
Yeah,
um would you agree that it's best for the buyer's agent to arrange for the inspector to get the radon test equipment out there, a few days before they have the test? That way, you have your inspection contingency timelines. And
yeah,
I mean, of course, a reasonable listing agent seller will give you some extra time if you need it, but you kind
hmm,
of want to stay on track. You don't want to have your inspection the fifth day and then you really got to get back in 2 days, but you still don't have the radon
right,
results.
yeah. So that's definitely something we're conscious of when we're booking appointments or inspections or radon tests is the contingency period, and that's generally how we like to set it up. So somebody would come a couple days prior to the inspection, whether it was us doing the inspection or another inspector, um, and drop the radon test off. That way it can be picked up when everybody's there at the house, get the instant results, and you're done with it. There's no, waiting after that. Um, so yeah, yep, I would
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, 'cause that also is good too, because then when you're talking about the whole report in front of them, you can talk about it in person versus it's say they get the email report and
Yeah,
you want to call and talk about things if it's not what you thought. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I can
easy.
reduce the questions afterwards, calls and emails and that. So, yep.
Okay. I think I did that one. Yeah. So are there certain types of homes or certain areas where homes are in that are more likely to have more radon than others?
Yeah,
Like,
so yeah, certain types. So my business partner, Dan, he would say that, and he's been testing radon for 40 years now, and he would say, any house that is touching soil should have a radon test done. So whether it's a house when you're over a basement, um, or a house that's on a slab, or a house with a foundation and a crawl space below it, you should have a radon test done. Now, um, radon kind of it subsides as it goes up, up levels from the lowest areas. So a house that's on like pillars, like you'd see like coastal homes that are up on stilts. Um, or say you got a home, a condo, or something that's above a garage. It's probably not necessary to test at that point. You could, it wouldn't hurt. But yeah, so basement houses, any house with the foundation or a slab on it, generally you'd want to test.
okay.
And then also um, so it kind of works off stack effect. I kind of touched on that earlier. So a lot of it is it's drawn in through say cracks or penetrations in your foundation walls or slab floors, um, drain systems like houses with sump pumps. Usually that crack, that basin where your sump pump is, the pipes that are coming into that basin, usually that's the biggest contributor to letting those gases into the house.
Hmm.
Uh, Floor drains, things like that, where it can get in. Um, so yeah, there's definitely so a house with a sump system you'd probably want to test also.
Would that be, what about if there's a house that's got a septic tank? Does that have a difference or no?
Um, I think it's less susceptibility than it would be with a sump crack or your floor drain, something that's tied to a storm sewer or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Um, and so are there well, I mean, we kind of gave a good analysis, but would you say just like certain cities offhand, you would just already say, okay, I'm
Oh, yeah. So there's so the EPA, you could Google it. Michigan EPA radon map. They have three levels for radon. Level one's the highest areas. Then level three is your kind of lower areas or less susceptible areas. And they break it up by counties. Um, and in Michigan, our most susceptible areas or our highest counties are generally down south. The so like Washtenaw County, Jackson County, Lenawee County, um, then a little west, Cass County, Kalamazoo. So those are all level one or zone one, I should say. They're zones, not levels. So zone one counties. Then you get a little north of us, where we're at. So Livingston County is a relatively higher area. It's a zone two, and so Wayne County is a zone. Let's see, that's a zone one. Um, so you generally don't see too many numbers in Wayne County or too many high tests per the EPA. But it's not to say that your house wouldn't test high if you live in Wayne County.
yeah,
Um,
definitely have seen it. Wayne.
so, um, but where we're at in Washtenaw County and Livingston and Lenawee County, so a little south of us, it's upwards of 45% of the houses that test come back high.
Okay. And would you say waterfront makes a difference either?
Kind of depends on the soil.
Okay.
That's around the house. Yeah.
Okay. So what are the best ways to mitigate radon?
Um, so the best way and really the only way that I know about doing it with the gas is a vent system. Um, so essentially they catch the gas before it gets into the house. Um, and they do that with the fan system. So generally, um, say you have a house with a basement and the mitigation contractors have a way of determining the hottest spot for that radon entry, where it's coming in the most at. And it'll be off near one of the foundation walls. And they will, wherever that's at, they'll bore a hole into the slab. So they'll drill a hole into to the to the slab floor in the basement. And sometimes they'll try to tie it into the drain tile system, so the footing drains that we are talking about, or if they can't get it into there, they kind of dig a little pocket out below the slab, and they take a pipe, PVC pipe, to that hole. They seal around it, and then they take the pipe and they punch it out of the house, or they can run it up through the attic space. And when it gets outside the house or into the attic space, they'll put a fan on it. And that fan runs continuously. It creates a vacuum underneath the house and gets all that gas before it can get in, or vast majority of it. You're still going to get a little of it coming in, even with the mitigation system, but not highly as much as it would without it. Uh, really dependable systems. Once they're in, they generally work really well.
Okay. Yeah. So when someone, because I've had in the past where people haven't gotten a permanent mitigation system, they've just paid, let's say, $1,200 to just get it removed. And I mean, that sounds great, but at the end of the day, it doesn't stop more from coming in, right? So it's out of there for the time being, and then now.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little ignorant to what you're talking about. Getting it removed. The only way I know to really get it removed is having that fan system put in, or there's what they call a passive vent, where they just do the plumbing for it and they don't activate it. They don't put the fan on. Um,
Maybe that's what I'm never involved
yeah,
that part.
if
It's
you're
just
if you're
okay.
doing, but if you're doing that, then you might as well just get the fan on. At that point, if you got somebody out there doing all that work, you might as well wire a fan in.
Yeah, my guess is it's probably just a way to make more money, right? You
Yeah,
temporary and then okay, we'll come back in a couple of years and do it again.
that might be a bill of goods.
Yeah, because now I'm thinking, why would I do it any other way? Because that's the thing, they go in thinking that, it's something like, it's like mold, right? It's there today. And then once I've gotten it out, I may not expect to see it later, but
No,
yeah.
I mean, you can, like I said, you can open up the windows and get rid of it. But once you close those windows down for, 12, 15 hours, you're going to get it right back.
Okay. And I think we talked a little bit about this with the windows, but is there anything
Mhm.
else that homeowners can do to, if for some reason they don't know if they have radon, they don't want to test for it, but they
Yep.
want to just kind of clear the air besides open the windows, or anything,
Yeah.
else they can do besides getting the system?
So, yeah, so we talked about the houses with sump pits, the sump basins where you have your sump pump. First thing that a mitigation company would do is they would seal that off. Um, so I would recommend, if you have a sump crock in your basement, you get a plexiglass lid for it, and you kind of make your notches for your pipes and the electric going to the pump, but you silicone around the perimeter of it and any holes that you make in it. Um, but that's definitely going to lower the numbers some. how much, I guess you wouldn't know unless you got it tested before and after. So yeah, sealing off the sump basin, um, making sure your floor drains have water in them, so you can add water to your floor drains, say quarterly, just in case the traps in those drains have dried up, um, and could be letting the gas into the house that way too. So other than those, sealing up cracks or holes in your walls, or the slab floors, just caulk seal, things like that. Those are definitely ways to reduce numbers, the radon.
Okay. And if a mitigation system isn't installed in the house, how often should someone test for radon? I think you said you do yours every couple of years or something like that.
Yeah, and that might be a little overboard. I just do it every now and then when I think
Doesn't
about
cost
it.
you
I've got,
anything.
got one sitting at the house. Um, but I think the recommendation per the EPA is every 5 years. Um, yeah.
Okay. And it's not possible to have, a test where there's zero radon in the house, even if you have a mitigation system.
I haven't seen it. Um, I think the lowest I've seen for a test is uh, zero point 0.2 or zero point 0.3, so around zero, but I've never had a zero. And I've done quite a bit of these. Uh,
Yeah. Okay. And I think that's already talked about the cost if you just have it removed, but what is the cost if you get the mitigation system in there?
yeah, so you'd said $1,200 to get it removed. I'm not sure what that inquires, but so generally, and it's going to fluctuate, area to area. There's some municipalities that make you pull permits. Um, Most don't. Um, I know Ann Arbor does. As of a couple of years ago, they started making people pull permits for those, and it kind of doubled the cost.
And what,
But generally, I would say between $1,400, you know, maybe a little less than that, all the way up to, $2,800, somewhere in there. And there are some variables that could get it up above that too. If say you got a really big house, and you need a couple different suction points in the basement, or you have a house that has a few additions on it, or a couple additions, and one's over a crawl space and one's in a basement. And to get the crawl space mitigated, you have to encapsulate it. You have to put the vapor barrier down and seal everything up that way to get the vacuum created. So there's some variables there, but I would say, yeah, 1,300 all the way up to 28, somewhere in there.
okay. Well, it's
Yeah,
good to know. Yeah. I mean, you might as well get the whole thing, whole system in there if it's so close by a couple $100.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so for new construction homes that may already have a mitigation system installed, or there's, somebody has buying a house that already has a radon mitigation system in there,
Yeah.
um, would you still recommend to get a radon test done?
Yeah, it's a good way to know that it's working. Now, the new construction, so certain areas of the country, when you're building new houses, you have to kind of pre-plumb, for those mitigation systems. Um, so there'll be an extra pipe that's penetrating the slab down in the basement. It'll look just like a drain line, but it won't be. And that pipe will run up through the attic space and go out the roof and look like a plumbing stack. And in the attic space, there will be a little electrical box where you could hook a fan up to. So these new construction houses, generally the builder is not making it a mitigation system. At that point, they call it a passive radon vent. So it's working just off stack effect alone. It's not mechanically activated. Um, so yeah, new construction houses that have the radon vents, that means in that area, they're required to put those in because there's higher susceptibility that, um, there's high radon levels in that area. So that's definitely, I would be testing, and no matter what, I would be testing for radon, no matter where you're at, if you're buying the house. And if there is a mitigation system in, um, I would still be testing. We've pulled quite a few that were in and look like they were working just fine, and then we get high numbers after the test is done. Yeah.
Okay. Um, so when you have mitigation system, what should a homeowner do to make sure that, you know, it's working properly for one, and then, getting the full life expectancy to maintain the system?
Yeah. There's not much maintenance a homeowner will do. There's mitigation contractors out there, and they'll kind of tell you to have it serviced once a year. I don't know if that's absolutely necessary. So what you'll have on the pipe in the basement or wherever the suction point is at is a little gauge. We call it a manometer, and it's a little fluid gauge that measures the vacuum in there. And that's kind of what homeowners keep an eye on to make sure that it's functioning. So yeah, you want to pay attention to that. Anytime that, say, you got the sump pump down in the basement and the pump goes bad and you have to break the seal to the enclosure, you have to make sure that's sealed back up appropriately to make sure the system's going to pull, as much as it can. Um, so not too much maintenance with them, really at all, in my opinion.
That's
That
good.
home that homeowners would do. Now a contractor might come out and open the fan casement up and lubricate. But really it's every several years you're going to have to replace that fan anyways.
Okay, so every 5 years you probably need to replace it. Would you say that the ones where the tests were high that had the mitigation system in it already were because the fan wasn't replaced, or like it was put in improperly, or what do you think?
Tough to say. It's tough to say. Maybe they had made some improvements to the house. Maybe they added a basement or a bathroom into the basement and put new holes in the floor. Um, or again, broke the seal at the sump crack, which we can usually tell. Maybe the fan's not pulling as hard as it was, at the beginning. Um, so there's a handful of variables that could cause something like that, but it's tough for us to say when we're there just, testing, reading the
Yeah.
results.
Um, but the whole system wouldn't have to get replaced, just the fan every 5 years. So how much would you think it would cost to
Like
replace it?
it's working.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
I said we could look at the manometer and see if it's working, and it looks like it's working, but for whatever reason, it's not working as well as it could or should.
Oh yeah, no, I was asking, you said replacing the fan every 5 years. So you get this.
Every several, it could be 5 years, could be 10 years. Yeah,
Oh, you could have, okay. So
yeah.
when you do replace the fan, you don't need to replace the whole system. So how much you think the fan would be?
Oh, probably 400 or 500 bucks or so installed by a contractor. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and then if somebody's renting or they're in a high-rise condo, right? There's not going to be too much they can do. Um, in terms,
If you're in a high rise building, really, if you're not on the ground level, um, there's no real reason for you to be testing.
okay. So is there anything else you want to add? I think is important.
Um, Not necessarily. I think these were good questions, and we touched on a lot of good stuff. If
Thank you.
anybody has any questions, of course, they can give us a call. Integrity Inspection Group. You can find us on the internet, Facebook, um, and we also do home inspections too. So we'd be happy to service you one way or another and answer any questions you got on radon home inspections, what we do.
And you do sewer scopes now,
Yeah.
as
Yep.
well.
So we have a contractor that we sub out for sewer inspections too, and he does a really good job and is very knowledgeable in all the metro areas. So yeah, that's something we've added on recently and excited about. Yeah.
Okay. And what about well and septic?
Well, and septic, that'd be a separate contractor. We don't do that at this point. We're kind of kicking it around. I know I have enough to worry about when I'm at a house with what I'm doing. And it's not an easy job. And not that I'm afraid of the hard work, but um, when I'm doing a house inspection, I like for my focus to be on that and not the well and septics. But we have several contractors, that we can refer out for that, and we would make the call and set it up. So if you want to call, set up your well and septic inspection, or tell us you want it, then we can make that call and set everything up, as well as the sewer scopes, radon testing, house inspection. Yep.
Yeah, that'd be better than them trying to find their own person and find out that
Yeah.
the person gave them a
Yeah, it's like
report
anything.
without
There's some good ones and some not so great ones out there. So we got a good feel for all the contractors and all the different fields around here. So
Yeah, and it's also good to know that you like to focus on, the house, right? Because some people it's just about
a
the
big
money.
deal. It's a big deal, and you add on a well and septic inspection, then you're kind of looking at the clock, and um, everything's kind of got to go right to get to your second one on time, and it's just I really need to focus on the house and answering questions, things like that, and doing a good job running around the house. At this point, worrying about getting outside and digging up the ground is just something I'm not wanting to do, quite honestly.
Okay. Well, if people want to reach Integrity Inspection Group to set up an inspection or get a radon
Yep.
test, what's the best phone
So yeah,
number?
you can give us a call. It's area code 734-772-2789, or you can reach out by email to our office it's info@integrity-inspectiongroup.com.
Well, thank you so much. I hope everyone enjoy this informative radon report, and I hope everyone has a good day. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrice.
You're welcome.
If you've enjoyed watching this video and would love to stay up to date when I have more content like this or something similar that you may be interested in, please like and subscribe to this channel and click the bell so you get notifications. And I hope you have a great day.